Very good, Jacob. Well, it's good to have you here. Good to be here. And can't wait to meet all the believers this weekend. Have a great time with them. But Jacob, because we're not in our normal setting and we're actually recording this before Friday, we wanted to catch up on a few things that are going on because going into this weekend, it's going to be very busy. And we're not going to be able to address the normal issues that we have. So we wanted to get a special preview, not only of the conference, but also catching up for this Friday, which Jay and the group are going to handle. And one of the things that astounded me today when I arrived in Glasgow was the UK Parliament. They passed the budget. This is a Labour budget, which they've been planning to do for a while. But I guess Rachel Reeves, the UK Chancellor, the first female one that she says she takes pride in that, she passed the budget, she says, for growth, for rebuilding England and Scotland and Wales. And whenever I hear that, I get really scared. Rebuilding. Taxes are going up. She says we're paying for insurance, we're paying for health benefits and other benefits, the largest hike since 1993. Jacob, what are your thoughts on that?
History has proven that the worst way to retard and discourage and impede growth is overtaxation.
Right.
What you wind up doing is penalizing the productive sectors of the economy in order to reward the unproductive. And in Britain, what they're not telling you is a lot of the funding of social services is not for British citizens, but for illegal immigrants and the children of illegal immigrants, much the same as in the United States. What we saw in the United States in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, people in North Carolina, getting $750, while illegal immigrants who entered the country illegally and broke the law were getting $2,500
a month.
Yeah, a month. Well, the Britain is much the same, and in many respects even worse. The British taxpayer is being penalized for being British and forced to subsidize social services for mainly Islamic immigrants and other immigrants that have entered Britain illegally, and many of them even hate Britain. They hate the country. They're only here parasitically because they see it as their right. The infidel must support the Muslim. Things of this nature is the mentality of some of them. It is the jizah. It is their way of thinking. And now I'm not saying that there are not Muslims who disagree with this, but the kind of people coming into the country, they're coming here illegally simply to bleed the British taxpayer. And the policy of the Starmer government is to hand the bill to the British people, British families. They've consistently maintained a two-tier policing system. One looks the other way in the face of Islamofascism and anti-Semitism, but then there's the one who cracks down on British citizens who are opposed to it. And it goes well beyond the economic sphere. For instance, we had an immigrant who knifed 3 children to death in Southport, England, a few weeks ago.
The little girls at the death.
Little girls at the death. And we were assured by the British government that this was not an Islamic attack.
Yeah.
Well, we found out that the assailant had an Islamic guidebook, a militant Islamic handbook on how to murder, and they found ricin, a deadly poison. It absolutely was.
No doubt.
In some way aligned to Islamic terror. But the British government just lied and began calling the people who were opposed to what happened and reacting against this kind of immigration as racists and ultra-right extremists and things of this nature, much the same as you see in the United States.
Oh, yes. Starmer said he was going to keep the courts open 24 hours so he can prosecute all these people.
That's right. He wants to prosecute British citizens. It's much the same as what happens with the Joe Obama administration, the Harris administration in America.
That's right.
Simply a British version of it. So that is what's happening. But if you look at the decline of Great Britain, where the countries that lost the Second World War, Japan and Germany, and Italy rivaled Britain, but Japan and Germany easily overtook it. How could this be that the victor lost the war and the ones who lost the war managed to become the second, third largest economies in the world?
Right.
Well, how did that happen? Well, it was the policies of the Labour Party, a welfare state, overtaxation of British industry, penalization of the productive sectors of the economy, causing a capital flight, removing investment capital from the City of London abroad, This is what they did, and what this particular regime is doing is resurrecting those kind of policies to a degree not seen
Wow.
in the last certainly 2 decades or more, and it's guaranteed to get the same result. Guaranteed to get the same result. Don't forget, Starmer did not win the election. He only got 20% of the votes. The reason they are in power is the failure of the Tory party, because the Tory party stopped being conservative. There's not been a conservative prime minister in Britain since Margaret Thatcher. The kind of people who ran the Conservative Party in Britain are the British equivalent of American Rhino Republicans, of people like John Cornyn and Mitch McConnell and Bush and Romney and people of that nature. The British equivalent of American rhinos. Their unpopularity has resulted, of course, in an advance made by Labour. But fewer people voted for Starmer than voted for his predecessor candidate, Jeremy Corbyn, who was a vicious opponent of Israel. Many would say an anti-Semite.
Right.
But how did he get in? Well, if the people did not vote for socialism, they voted against the failure of the Conservative Party to be conservative. Additionally, the Conservative vote split to Nigel Farage's Reform Party, who are the real Conservative Party now.
Yeah.
The best thing that could happen is in Britain is the rest of the Tories leave the Conservative Party and join the Reform Party, or the Reform Party and the Conservative Party merge and put someone like Nigel Farage, who's the British equivalent of Donald Trump, broadly speaking, in control of the party. Now, that would be a way forward. My fellow New Yorker,
Boris Johnson,
although he supported Brexit, he failed in all of his other policies, particularly during COVID.
Yeah.
And he bears major responsibility, as does Theresa May, for the failed policies of the Tory government. But Sunak was not much better.
Oh, Rishi, yeah.
They had a wonderful woman, an Asian woman, Suella Braverman, who should have been the party head, but she wasn't. I just don't see a way to get out of this in the short term. However, there is an incredible unpopularity of Starmer, who, among other things, has been caught up in wild scandals. Wild scandals. I mean, an Islamic businessman named Ali giving him all of these benefits that are of considerable financial value if you don't put a price tag on it. And it's not just him. And it's extended as far as New York, even New York, as well as in London. And this is what's happening. And you have people resigning from his own cabinet, leaving his own government over these scandals. He is not a successful prime minister for somebody to have this kind of unpopularity so soon after a general election is something that almost lacks precedent in itself. This budget is going to make it worse. It is a budget that will be counterproductive. It is a budget that will penalize the productive sectors of the economy to reward unproductive. And it's a budget that will hand the British people, the British taxpayer, the bill for illegal immigrants and others who came into the country, including Islamofascists.
Yeah. So Tommy Robinson gets apprehended.
He's in jail. Tommy Robinson is in jail
for terrorism,
for the crime of patriotism.
Right.
Most people would say it as the crime of patriotism.
Right.
There were massive demonstrations.
40,000 showed up.
But they don't care. They don't care. Now, the reason this is important is you can expect this kind of political desperation to take place in the United States if Kamala Harris does not win.
Yeah.
We should not put it past the American Democratic Party to engage in the same kind of political fascism that you see in the Labour Party in Britain, turning against its own citizens.
That's right.
Ignoring the law, ignoring any principles of constitutionality, and also the media. MSNBC, CNN, they are of the same ilk as the BBC.
Right.
The same ilk. Propaganda, bias, even lies. You cannot trust anything you see in the mainstream media in Britain. You cannot trust anything you see in the mainstream media in America. What the Labour Party does in Britain, which is a socialist party, you have now basically the Democratic Party is a socialist party doing the same in America. And an anti-populism on both sides of the Atlantic.
They just fined GB News £100,000.
Yes,
because they're claim that they're impartial. And so how can you have impartiality at a news outlet that is just trying to be balanced? It's probably the most balanced one now. I don't know.
it is.
Sky News is not that.
GB News is similar to what Newsmax is in the United States.
Right.
To be that kind of way. And so what they're using again is a corrupt legal system to bring prosecutions, civil actions
right
against media they don't agree with, and trying to silence free speech.
And the issue was Rishi Sunak because they were critical of Rishi Sunak.
And they don't like Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Rishi Sunak is, again, a kind of British equivalent of a rhino. Now, not that they like Rishi Sunak. It's just that they don't like independent news media who will not dance to their tune.
So, Jacob, you see this happening, the same cookie mold type cut.
In America and in Britain, it's the same. Look, I'm Anglo-American, for one of the better term. I live both sides of the Atlantic. We'll spend time on both sides of the Atlantic. My family originally from here. I was obviously born in the States, but it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Let me ask you about the economy, because today we had the UK economy on the brink. The pound falls lower, the lowest or the biggest fall, I should say, in 18 months. There was a huge sell-off of bonds.
Yes.
So we're already starting feeling the effect one day after the budget was passed.
The bond market's disintegrating.
That's not good.
It's not good because one of the few sectors of the British economy where Britain remained highly competitive and viable. It's not in the manufacturing sector. It's not in the commercial sector, but it is in the banking and investment sector.
Yeah.
It's the City of London.
Fintech, yeah.
And when you hit that, you hit the one remaining pillar of British economic viability on an international level. Now, again, what you see this happening with the disintegration of the value of the pound and the collapse of the bond market, the people who are running BRICS would love to see that happen to the dollar.
That's what I was telling you. It's been calls already for, hey, is it time to go back to Europe, back to the euro? Surely after this. Jacob, I wanted to ask you about Scotland since we're here. They receive, or they're going to receive, £3.4 billion because of this budget. Supposedly is to cover some of the deficit that they had in the previous budget, to try to pay for some of the financial benefits and health benefits that have been shorted. It looks like it's going to pay more toward the insurance than anything else. I don't think people are going to see that in their in their salary. But the finance minister of Scotland said that's not enough.
No.
Now, remind me, or maybe explain to us, 3.4 billion is not enough. I don't know what the Scottish economy, what does it depend on? What's the infrastructure?
We're situated in Glasgow, where my grandmother was born. She grew up in an adjacent town, medium-sized city called Paisley, but she was born here in Glasgow, where we are. She was educated in Edinburgh and then immigrated to the United States, but she spoke with a Glasgow accent her entire life. She spoke like the people around here. She had the Glasgow accent her whole life, as did my aunt and certain other family. I know this place. The only family I have in Glasgow now would be distant relatives who my mother might have known, but I don't. But this is where they were from. You know, I want to hear in Donegal, Ireland. I've been in my maternal homelands in the last week, and both of them. And it is a city, although the people are quite nice. Most of the people in Glasgow are friendly people. The city is a pile of garbage. It's a dump. The left-wing political establishment has done in Scotland, and this includes the Scottish National Party, not just Labour, they've done to Glasgow what the Democrats have done to Detroit, to Philadelphia, to Baltimore, to Chicago, the same kind of thing. They take viable cities and turn them into urban wastelands They turned them into infested dumps. That's what they've done. The same kind of thing, same kind of policies. Now, it would have been economically sensible in some schools of argumentation for Scotland to have moved for Scottish independence from the UK before most of the North Sea oil was gone.
Right.
Now that oil is mostly gone. There's still an industry, but most of the oil itself is now gone. Okay. Scotland is not capable of being economically viable outside of the UK unless it became the offshore colony of Brussels, of the EU, of Europe.
Wow.
That many people in the Scottish left want it to be. But that's the only way.
Wow.
The Scottish National Party was until recently headed by a Muslim who was anti-Israel, who had family in Gaza, Muslim family in Gaza, and he was the first minister of Scotland.
Wow.
His predecessor is in legal trouble for scandal and corruption. The Scottish National Party, that was supported by different people, like the actor Sean Connery and people like that, they were caught up in the emotion of a Scottish nationalism, but did not give due notation to economic realities. They simply decided their politics on the basis of national sentiment, which I could understand. My grandmother wanted an independent Scotland, but at least the oil was there.
Right.
You had a way forward. Scotland's population only about 5-6 million, and if you take away the illegal immigrants and the others, it's less. It's just not something that can be done. Alex Salmond, one of the founders of the Scottish National Party, his funeral was just this past week. He was one of the people who brought Scotland to its knees economically. Scotland is an economic wasteland. Now, what you have in Scotland and is similar to what you've had with the Catholic population in Northern Ireland, a half-truth. Again, much the way that Black Americans are told by the left, it's systemic racism and white people that are responsible for your plight. It's not the fact that 3 out of 4 Black children are born out of wedlock and absentee fatherhood and a school system designed to fail. You don't look at that. No, it's the fault of systemic racism and white people. That's
establishment.
Well, the Scottish people and the Catholic population of Northern Ireland have been fed the same kind of bill of goods.
Wow.
It's the fault of the English establishment. Now, there is a measure of truth in it, but nothing like what they're saying.
Right. Yeah, it's blown out of proportion.
The Scottish National Party itself, I was just talking to Marco earlier. You have in Edinburgh, which is the capital of Ireland, I'm sorry, of Scotland, Holyrood House, and you have Edinburgh Castle up on the Royal Mile, the traditional seats of power in Scotland where the Stone of Scone is and so forth. This is where the Scottish kings reigned and so on. Well, what happened? The Scottish National Party gets enough votes to have a Scottish Assembly, which would be broadly the equivalent of an American state assembly or state senate within the UK. And they want a certain amount of subsidiarity and autonomy within Scotland. Okay, the British Labour Party will give it to them. Okay. So instead of meeting in Holyrood Castle or Edinburgh Castle, they decide to build a new Scottish Parliament building, an elaborate building that goes at least 10 times over budget. An ugly eyesore if you ever saw one. And then who pays for it?
Yeah, the tax.
All they're good for is like any other leftist: fiscal irresponsibility, mismanagement, misallocation, misappropriation, and throwing the taxpayers' money out the window. Now they've thrown all this money out the window, so they say, now give us more.
They need a bailout. 3.4 billion is not enough. She literally said it's a right step in the right direction, but it's not enough, and she's disappointed. I couldn't believe 3.4 billion. That's a lot of...
As Margaret Thatcher said, the problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of other people's money.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's what's going on. Jacob, I want to pivot to Haifa and what happened there in Israel. 2 more civilians were killed. There was an attack on Haifa. There was an attack on Metula. There's civilians that were killed. There were workers, even foreign workers that were working at hospitals. They were killed as well. So you know that area pretty well, Haifa, Metula, northern Israel. Hezbollah keeps attacking drones. We've seen some footage of drones flying through the cities. Hezbollah is not giving up. I don't think this war is going to stop anytime soon unless there's some kind of agreement, because it's like an endless war. How do you dismantle Hezbollah completely?
Well, first of all, we have to realize what has happened and how things went wrong. Now, Metula is a border town with Kiryat Shmona. It's literally right on the border with Lebanon, but it is like called the finger of Israel. It's above Galilee and reaches up into Lebanon geographically. So Tyre and Sidon are to the west, and the rest of Lebanon is to the north, while Haifa is about 30 miles, 28, 30 miles south of the border from Lebanon as a crow would fly.
Okay.
Metula has Lebanon on the left and Lebanon in front of it, and then Lebanon on the right.
Wow.
On the east as well, a bit going
Really
towards Syria.
in there.
It's highly vulnerable, always has been. That is the area where the people have been evacuated. We've got 80,000 people who are war refugees in their own country that the media ignores. They're only concerned about the people in Gaza, not the Israelis that have been driven out of their homes and the children in their schools and so forth. They don't care about that. Haifa is something different. Haifa is Israel's main port. Haifa is the place of a major industry, oil refineries. It is part of the high-tech belt of Israel. It was the original high-tech belt of Israel because of the Technion, which is like the MIT or Caltech of the Middle East, things of that nature. And I know Haifa well. I lived in Haifa for years. My children are actually born in Haifa. This place I know very, very well. And it's easily targeted. It's easily targeted. The Iron Dome has performed very well, but the basic strategy of Hezbollah, advised by Iran, is to oversaturate the attacks so the Iron Dome can only be partially effective.
Right.
However, the Israeli counterattacks and airstrikes and the Israeli incursions may have left Hezbollah with as few as only 20%
of their force,
of the rocketry that they did have.
Wow.
And they had somewhere between 150,000 and 250,000 rockets and missiles. So the Israelis have destroyed a substantial portion of it. Now, how did this come about? Well, it came about through the failure of the United Nations, UNIFIL, the United Nations forces. The agreement when the Israelis left Lebanon in 2005, thereabout, they left with the understanding that the United Nations would guarantee that Hezbollah would be kept north of the Litani River.
That's right. That was it.
The area of Tyre and Sidon, biblical cities, Tyre and Sidon, away from the Israeli border, or away, at least certainly away from Haifa, from Nahariya, places like that.
Yeah.
Out of rocket range of Carmiel, more or less.
That is UN 701.
And the UN, of course, failed to do its job. They looked the other way and they let Hezbollah put rocket emplacements close to the border. Now, you did not have the same degree of active hand-to-hand cooperation between UNIFIL and Hezbollah that you had with United Nations Relief Works.
Oh, UNRWA, yeah.
UNRWA.
Oh, that was.
It was not the hand-to-hand operation. UNRWA was simply there to...
They're handlers, basically.
Yeah, they were basically there not for the benefit of the people of Gaza, but for the benefit of Hamas.
That's right.
Okay, UNRWA should not exist anyway. There's a United Nations High Commission for Refugees, and there's no reason to have a separate one, a special one for Palestinian Arabs. What they are there to do is to help keep Palestinians as refugees instead of to be permanently settled. They could have had a state in Gaza. Lebanon is different. First of all, Hezbollah is Shia. Hamas is mainly Sunni, although backed by Iran. Shia has a religious connection with the Alawite government of Assad in Syria.
That's right.
and with obviously the Iranian mullahs. Okay, so they're Shia. And at one time, even the Shias were sympathetic to Israel
Sure.
because they disliked Arafat.
Oh,
They disliked Fatah when Arafat was in power, but the Israelis drove Arafat out to Tunisia. To the delight of the Shias.
yeah.
But then Iran got involved when the situation began to change because of religion and because of the interference of the American government, which was very, very inefficient and corrupt. Corrupt diplomacy, a lot of it went on. So the United UNIFIL failed to do its job. It failed to do its job. And these rocket launching facilities were south of the Litani River, where they should not have been. They were in position, controlled by Iran, backed by Russian technology via Iran, and acting in support and in concert with the Houthis in Yemen and in concert with Hamas in Gaza. But the orchestration is by Iran, from Tehran. That is basically what is happening and how it happened. Now, Hezbollah has been hit so hard, and since Nasrallah and his heirs and his deputies, so many have been taken out. And there was the miracle of the phone calls.
Right. The pagers and phone calls.
Hey, let me hear for a minute. No problem. You know.
I don't think anybody wears a pager now.
No.
I don't think anybody does.
No. Hezbollah has been hurt. And Hezbollah seems to be willing to negotiate a withdrawal north of the Litani. However, we must remember, many Lebanese, including many Sunni Muslim Lebanese, Druze Lebanese, and Christian Lebanese hate Hezbollah and want the Israelis to get rid of them.
Right.
The media is not telling you that either.
Netanyahu just recently said that we can try to get a peace deal with Lebanon as long as Hezbollah is disarmed. Do you think that could happen? Because Amish Hochstein, which is Biden's representative there, he's been a dumpster fire. He's not very good, but he's got the ear of Biden. He can talk to Biden at any time, and he says he's responsible for the ceasefire that never worked. He says that he's given the green light to Israel to go into Lebanon. Do you think it'll happen? Some kind of, not a ceasefire, but some kind of peace deal?
Okay, first of all, I guess we know Biden is a half-son-out corruptocrat. He's a stooge. He's a joke, as is Harris. Jake Sullivan is an incompetent establishment player. The people who've basically been pulling the strings on back of the foreign and defense policies of the Biden administration have been Obama's people.
Yeah.
And Susan Rice and Obama, who was also an incompetent. Obama is responsible that Iran is in the position it's in to fund and sponsor these other terrorist organizations. It's Obama's fault that Iran remains and has increased as a nuclear threat to the region. It's Obama's fault that the surge of General Petraeus left a vacuum by Obama, where Obama snatched defeat from the jaws of victory and put ISIS into power and mocked, ridiculed ISIS as a JV team. That was his term. And 2 weeks later, ISIS is setting bombs off all over Europe.
Yeah.
And you had an attack in California.
Yeah, San Bernardino.
This really happened. Obama's a gross incompetent himself, but he and Susan Rice were the real powers and back with the policies of the Biden administration. Biden doesn't know anything. He never did know anything. And then Harris knows even less. So this is the situation you're dealing with. Yes, I do think a negotiation is possible with Hezbollah because they're vulnerable. The Israelis have destroyed most of their rockets and missiles. A lot of them have been killed. Their leadership has almost been exterminated. They have Qasem now. Naim Qasem is the new leader, and he's afraid they'll kill him too, obviously. And so they have an incentive to negotiate. Now, what you can't do, though, is guarantee that they'll keep to the terms of any negotiation. They broke every other one, and the United Nations, as usual, did nothing because the United Nations is nothing.
Yeah. There was some concerns from the Israeli government, Jacob, that part of the information that were given to the Americans was being leaked out to Iran.
Sure.
Do you still believe that is happening?
I believe that Iran is not only the sponsor of the Houthis, of Hamas, and of Hezbollah. I believe that the Obama-Harris administration have been the financial sponsors of Iran.
Yeah. By the way, this came from a former cabinet member of Trump.
Yes.
Said that this was happening. They warned the Department of Defense. They warned the Pentagon. They did nothing about it, and they continue to leak information that Israel was giving the U.S. about their soon-to-be attacks.
Under the Biden-Harris administration, the United States is a partner that cannot be trusted.
Yeah.
It's an ally that's not an ally.
Yeah.
It plays both sides. They want to placate Iran. Iran is only able to do these things because of Obama.
Yeah.
That is the reason we have what we have in Ukraine. That is the reason that we have what we have in the South China Sea. And that is the reason we have what we have in the Middle East. We may thank Barack Obama, Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden to the extent that he's mentally capable of it.
Yeah.
And Harris was obviously just a bimbo. He doesn't know anything. But this is what you're dealing with.
Yeah. So look up the names if everybody wants to read about Robert Malley.
Robert Malley. How can that man not be prosecuted for treason?
I don't know.
In the estimation of some people.
I have no idea why he's
Some people think he should be executed for treason.
Treason, yes.
Yeah.
And Maher Batar,
Yes.
who worked under Malley.
Yes.
And Malley got his clearance taken out.
Yes.
I mean, that's a big deal.
Yes. That other Pakistani Muslim who worked with Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So people can look that up and see the treason that's going on. It is
Many would call it treason.
Yeah, and the betrayal of the chosen, because literally Israel was working with the U.S.
Put it to you this way: if it's not treason, it's only cannot be called treason because of technical legal definition.
That's true.
In principle, that amounts to treason in the opinion of many thinking people.
The attack on Iran by Israel, it's called Operation Day of Repentance. Pretty interesting name.
Yes.
They literally have left Iran pretty blind. No S-300, no S-400, reportedly, right?
Yes.
Do you think Iran is, well, this is what they said. I don't want to know what you think. They said before the election on November 5th, expect an attack on Israel. They leaked that out to CNN. I don't trust CNN, but I don't trust Hezbollah or Iran either. But what do you think?
Much the same as there's a lot of hatred against the Assad regime in Syria, much the same as there's hatred against Hezbollah in Lebanon, much the same. There is similarly much hatred against the mullahs, against Khomeini in Iran, in Tehran, in Isfahan also, in Tabriz also. And they are afraid of losing power. They need to consolidate power. That is why they're stepping up capital executions.
I was just going to ask you about that. 29 people over the last.
That's why they're cracking down and trying to put the fear into people, not to react or to protest or to do anything that would suggest any disloyalty to the present regime. Yeah. That is their basic policy. They need to try, or at least threaten to attack Israel again in order to save face and to show strength, in order to preserve power.
So they executed people that were against their political regime.
Sure.
Some homosexuals, some Christians. So they're all across the board. Where's the outcry, Jacob, of the university students?
Nobody cares if you kill Christians. Look, it's the same old story. As we speak, there is a crisis in Darfur where you have 10.3 million at last count. At least 10.3 million refugees, Muslim refugees.
Wow.
Being made refugees by other Muslims. Arab Muslims creating African Muslim refugees. Do you hear anybody protesting in South Africa or anywhere? No. 400,000 people killed in Yemen by other Muslims. 400,000 Muslims killed in Yemen by other Muslims. You hear anybody protesting? No. Even Al Arabiya and Al Jazeera have put up estimates that as many as 700,000, and some say more, killed in Syria. Do you see people protesting at Columbia University or Berkeley University about what? No, of course it's only if Israel defends itself.
Yeah.
But now let's look at the other story that the New York Slimes, the Washington Compost, MSNBC, the Clinton News Network, and the Bias, Blasphemy, and Cowardice, also known as the BBC, will not report, will not do anything to report. When the Israelis got Sinwar, they went into Rafah and got him.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris was denouncing Israel going in to Rafah and getting him.
Yeah, she said it on the video. I didn't want them to go. I didn't want them to go.
No, now you understand, Sinwar is to the Israelis what bin Laden is to America. When Joseph Biden was vice president in the Obama administration, Biden was against taking out bin Laden.
Yeah.
He was against getting bin Laden. Sinwar would still be alive, looking to carry out his threat to do more October 7th if Harris had her way. Additionally, the Israeli military unit, which was still technically in training, that took out Sinwar, was one that was being censored by the Pentagon.
That's right.
This is what you're dealing with.
Betrayal.
Donald Trump told the Israelis, this is the opportunity, it might be the last opportunity, to destroy the nuclear weapons development program of Iran, bomb those sites.
Yeah.
Biden stopped it. It would not have done anything to deter the insurrection against the mullahs. People would not have cared if you took out those sites. It would not have driven up the price of oil on the global market, which Biden doesn't want before election. Wouldn't have done any of those things. Donald Trump said, do it. Biden stopped it.
Yeah.
Harris stopped it. Iran's best friend is the Biden-Obama administration.
Yeah.
They're the Iranians' best friend. The Iranians would not have been able to do what they did without Barack Obama, Joseph Biden, and Kamala Harris.
Jacob, what's going to happen on the 5th? Because this is what's in the balance now. November 5th is a U.S. election. And as for now, it should be a landslide based on, popular vote, based on the markets, based on the polls that are true polls. She's highly unpopular, completely unpopular among young kids, among Hispanics, among Blacks. People don't like her. The only one that supports her, unfortunately, are, I guess you could say, middle-class white women, upper middle-class white women. That's what she favors, and that's what she's very highly...
Stupid people who think with their emotions will vote for her.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's quite a bit of that in the States.
And establishment Republicans who show their true colors. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dick Cheney and his daughter.
Yeah.
Rhinos will vote for her because rhinos have always been socialists. They've always been left-wing Democrats sitting on the opposite side of the aisle, and now they're showing their true colors.
Yeah. Even unfortunately, Billy Graham's granddaughter's into that stuff too. So that's another one. But I wanted to ask you about Pennsylvania because this is a swing state, and we get reports today cheating. There are poll workers and police on behalf of poll workers telling people in line to vote, go home, don't vote today, overwhelmed, 1:30 in the afternoon. Well, wait a minute, the polls don't close until 5. Why are you telling us to go home? Well, they're trying to keep people from voting. Even
absolutely.
Trump came out and said, look, they're trying to cheat in Lancaster.
And they are using the police as a political police force to stop it.
To get them out of there.
They're using the police to prevent people from voting. That is how corrupt the Democratic Party is. Let's remember that Krasner is very much like Gascoigne in Los Angeles, and he is like Bragg in New York. He's a Soros prosecutor.
District attorney.
A Soros prosecutor, district attorney.
Yeah.
That's what he is. Shapiro is a left-wing Jew.
Mm-hmm.
The only Democrat telling the truth at all in that state is, ironically, Fetterman.
From Pennsylvania.
He's somewhat telling the truth.
Right.
At least concerning Israel.
Yeah.
So with the election coming on the 5th, Netanyahu knows, and Israel's enemies know, that before the election, Biden can only go so far, at the behest of Obama, obviously, in opposing Israel. If Harris wins that election, the gloves will come off and they'll try to strangle Israel. And they will do so with the blessing of left-wing American Jews.
Yeah.
Wasserman Schultz, Schumer, the usual crowd, Blumenthal, Shapiro, etc. That's what's going to happen. By the way, Krasner's also a Jew.
Oh, yeah.
As the Soros.
Yeah.
The left-wing Jews are the traitors to not only to America, but to their own people. This is what you're dealing with. Netanyahu also knows if he's going to do something, he needs to do it now. If Donald Trump wins, it's going to be a different ball game come January.
Yeah.
So it is easy to see how events in the Middle East can intensify, even with an explosive intensity towards something explosive.
Yeah.
Even within the next several days. I don't say it will happen, but I say that there are enough factors in the scenario. You don't have to speculate much to see how it could come about.
Ex-CIA, ex-FBI guys are coming on and saying, expect assassination attempts, derailment of trains, sleeper cells.
Yes.
Everything's on the table.
Additionally, because of the placation of the radical left and the Islamofascists, even of the pro-Hamas demonstrators on college campuses and in cities.
That's right.
With Harris is with them, in effect, in many respects. Even though some of them are complaining she's not far enough with them. Okay, even though that is happening. If Donald Trump wins, you have to also expect that in blue states, there's going to be riots and reactions.
Absolutely.
It could absolutely happen.
I think that should be the expectation. That I'll be surprised if it doesn't happen. Put it that way.
Yeah, at least to a degree. But the question is to what degree, and it could go to a significant degree. We don't know at the present moment. God knows.
Yeah.
But we also know certain things. Daniel 2, he establishes kings and removes kings.
Amen.
And we also know, Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael. He who keepeth Israel, by the slumbers nor sleeps.
Amen. Jacob, lots of stuff going on this weekend in the world. And I'm going to ask you at the end, what do you believe God's showing you and what's doing? Because we have two conferences this weekend and next weekend. We are looking forward to this weekend here in Scotland, next weekend in Staffordshire in England. It's going to be fantastic. You, Tim Leach, and myself. And the conference is going to cover a lot of things, a lot of prophecy stuff. Your book, at least in Scotland, we're going to talk about that. Then prophecy and velocity in England. Some very good stuff that's coming down the line. But we might be sitting on a weekend where things may happen faster than we expect. And, I'm not thinking about changing my subject, but it might be that situation where we have to, address certain things that happened during that time. But Jacob, what is God doing and what is God showing as we close, as we get close to the end of the age? And we're getting close to that 70th week of Daniel that we see up ahead. What do you believe God's doing in the world, and what should we as Christians do and expect during these times?
As events unfold in light of biblical prophecy, I think all of us are going to have to do a certain amount of reformulation of our previously held presuppositions.
Amen to that.
I think ultimately the people who've been deluded into the nonsense, the invented nonsense of pre-tribulationism, they're not just going to be left with egg on their face. They're going to be soaked in mud. And they're already absurd, but they're going to become so patently ridiculous. They're going to be a joke. They're going to be just a laughing. They will become a laughing stock. They're going to be proved so obviously wrong. In England and Staffordshire, we are dealing with the pace at which things are happening.
Right.
Things that we talked about 20, 30 years ago, ourselves and others, have happened and are happening. It's the pace in which it's happening. Scotland will be different. We've warned and warned and warned about those who speculate about dates. But he's coming like a thief in the night, and that day should not overtake us like a thief.
That's right.
We can never know the day or the hour of the rapture. We cannot know the week or the month of the rapture. But we do know that it will be not long after the first half of the 7 years.
Right.
And we can narrow it down even further. That is a subject I'll be addressing in my next book. Now, until the book is finished, we're not going to put that on the internet. If you're not at the Scottish conference, you're going to have to wait for the book to come out. But I will be sharing part of it in Scotland. I'm looking forward to doing a couple of things. I'm trying to promote Pastor Marco Quintana's ministry on this side of the Atlantic, in Britain, Europe, Britain. I'm trying to promote Marco. I'll get him better known over here. A number of people know who he is from catching up with Jacob and Moriel and so on. But we're trying to get Marco better known over here. And at the same time, I'm simultaneously trying to get Pastor Tim Leach better known in the United States, on the other side of the Atlantic. So I'm trying to promote Marco over in Britain, and I'm trying to promote Tim in the United States. Because of my age and my health, I'm not taking a back seat or anything, but I'm doing a lot more on internet and speaking a lot less than I used to, apart from conferences. But it's time for me to begin pushing others, not that I'm stepping out, but to push others into the circuit. I need to get Marco better known over here. I need to get Tim better known in America. And that's some of the things we'll be looking to do between now and the end of the year.
Very good. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Appreciate that. And if you are able to come to Scotland's conference tomorrow, sell your shirt and come. Hear Jacob, hear Tim, hear what we have to say about the coming of Jesus, because that's really what the focus is about, isn't it? It's about the return of our Lord. 1 Peter 1, a reminder, Peter says that the grace that is coming to you,
Amen.
the revelation and the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. That's what we have to look forward to. These events are absolutely horrible. I hate them. I hate the fact that Jewish people are suffering. Hate the fact that Christians are suffering. Hate the fact that people here in Scotland and England.
I hate the fact that Muslims are using their own children as human shields.
Absolutely, 100%. And that they're so blinded by Allah and Islam. And everywhere Allah goes, a curse. So I hate that fact. But I am looking forward to the fact that Jesus is going to straighten it out. And he's going to bring people not only from the Arab world to become believers, from the Jewish world to become believers, from the Gentile world. Obviously, Arabs are Gentiles too, but they have a special relationship with God, of Abraham. So I'm looking forward to the revelation of Jesus. But until then, we have to preach Christ until he comes. So that's what we're going to be doing. So hope you come. Jacob, any final words?
Yeah, we just have a couple of very important prayer requests. Pastor Keith Sant, who leads the Moriel Asian Church Fellowship in England, in the Midlands, is battling cancer. He's undergoing treatment, undergoing chemo. And he's also a trustee of Moriel UK.
Yes.
So please keep Keith in your prayer. We've also learned from New Zealand that the administrator of Moriel in New Zealand, Brother Pierre, is needing some kind of, they're going to do an angiogram today, but he has a heart condition. It has acted up before, but this time seems to be more serious. We're waiting for word. This was the time difference. We can't find out exactly yet, but we hope to find out shortly. Please keep Pierre and his wife Marguerite in prayer down in New Zealand. Also, my family are Israeli, and there are things involved in the whole situation. Again, I can't tell you, my grandchildren, I love them, and they're growing up in a society with increasing Islamofascism and anti-Semitism. I'm concerned about a number of things. There's a number of issues, and much of it related to the geopolitical situation, of course. Please keep my family in prayer. Your prayer for my family at the present time is much needed, and your prayers are coveted. Don't forget Tieth. Don't forget Pierre.
Amen.
And God bless all of you. For those who are coming to the conference, we look forward to seeing you.
See you at Gartmore House tomorrow, and see you at Staffordshire next weekend. God bless you guys.
Amen.
Welcome to Catching Up with Jacob, a very special edition. As you have already watched, Marco and Jacob and Davey are in the UK, actually Scotland right now, preparing to give a talk. But we're still going to carry on, and we have some special guests. But first, a regular, you know him, you love him, David Lister. How you doing?
I'm doing well today, Jay. I'm wearing my Japanese pajama type and my American, so I'm feeling very Japanese American in honor of you as the leader today, as well as God willing, future Japanese missionary.
Only if God wills, but yes, hopefully so. And you know him, you love him as well. My partner in crime, my sparring partner, and also the person that I coach for heavyweight fighting titles, Ken. Thank you for joining us on Catching Up.
How you doing? He set out the order, and I was like, all right, I'm there. I'm there on Friday. I'll do it. So I'm here, and I'm looking forward to it. Awesome. Good to be here.
Good to have you, Ken. Good to see you. I know that a lot of people are pestering me about when's our next episode dropping. We need to talk about scheduling that and getting the next episode of Ken's Corner done.
Yes.
And also, we have, for the first time, I think, second time contributing, we have Mia. Everybody knows Mia, our admin for Marital.
Yes, hello. Thank you, guys. Nice to be here with you. Usually in the background, just a little bit to share today since I've been asked to, but nice to be with you guys.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. We have a few announcements. I'm just going to go over them real quick. The Marital Scotland Conference is happening today from 4:30, and also on November 3rd at 1:30. Marital England UK Conference. It's full. If you're going, it is November 8th and November 10th. Look for times on marital.org. Jacob and Tim Leach will be at the Church of the Open Door Saturday, November 16th at 7 p.m. And we have Jacob and Tim speaking at the Church of the Open Door, Baltimore, on Sunday, November 17th, 3 p.m. at New Life Assembly Church. Jacob and Tim will be speaking at Springville, Tennessee, November 23rd and 24th. Unfortunately, I believe those are full, correct?
Yeah, we're full. It's at our house actually, so there's a limit as to how many, we can house. Yeah.
But we hope to maybe have something as far as a video of it. Maybe just highlights would be nice.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put something together to share the blessing. Yeah.
Great. And then finally, if you have not, we want you to definitely sign up for the Thanksgiving with Jacob and Tim Leach in Crystal River, Florida. There has been some changes made. That is November 29th, 2024 at 10, and it goes until November 30th, 2024 to 12. No, that would be 4 o'clock, right? That seems like a long time, but okay.
No, it's 2 days.
It's 2 days. Got it. Thank you. All right. So please, if you have not already, if you are down in Florida and you want to have some great fellowship, listen to some great speakers. Tim is awesome. Jacob, of course, is awesome. And Florida, I hear, is pretty nice in November. I mean, not as hot as it usually is and muggy, but
I used to live in Orlando, and it is beautiful at this time of year. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Now I kind of want to go.
Yeah.
We have two other speakers on there. A gentleman, a longtime disciple of mine that is church plants, and he's going to talk about the building blocks of church planting, and that goes along with the theme of the conference. And then also a longtime Marital supporter. If you've ever gotten a book mailed to you, it was mailed to you by Corey Wynn. And he's been speaking, and he's a really good, intelligent speaker, and he's going to have a small session there. So,
Well, it's Eric Wallhausen. Yeah.
Yeah, Eric and Corey win.
So packed house, many good speakers. I'm sure there'll be all sorts of refreshment, not only spiritually, but, practically as well. So please join us for Memorial Thanksgiving. Let's get started. Let's get caught up. The first story we're going to tackle, David, you're going to talk a little bit about one of my most unpopular human beings, as far as I'm concerned, Mark Cuban.
Yes. Mark Cuban said something very stupid today. He's, of course, a mouthpiece for Kamala Harris and this running. And he said something, and usually when mouthpieces say something, it's usually something that's being discussed in the inner circle. And kept there, it's run by, and then when it seems good, someone gets to say it out loud. So Mark said that Trump is afraid to have strong women around him because they'll confront him, and that he's afraid of that and he doesn't like it. Well, I don't agree with that. And if you watch the news commentaries, you've gone on X, you see a lot of women are saying, look, I'm strong. I support Trump. I mean, lots of them on Fox, all of them said the same thing. They all are strong women. And also examples such as Sarah Huckabee, who's the governor of, the governor of Arkansas, is a strong woman running that state, doing quite well. But she was also the press secretary. Her follow-up, whose name just, anyway, she's an extremely intelligent woman. Best press secretary I've ever seen, had every answer there in her big folder, but she came out and said how she's strong and Trump wants strong women around him. But that's from the secular side. But I asked Mia to come on today and I asked her, can you speak to why a Christian man needs to have a strong Christian woman and all the aspects of that, of being a strong Christian woman, being able to have good discernment and all these things. And so how it's good, not just for Mr. Trump to have strong women around him, but also for a Christian man. I have elder women that good, solid women that I like to listen to, and I take their advice. So please, Mia, can you explain why it's good to have a strong Christian wife?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm humbled to be asked to even speak on this, and I'm by no means any authority. All I can appeal to is the word of God on that. But when he's talking about, strong and intelligent women, I mean, our gauge scripturally is very different from the world, so a husband needs his wife in her proper place if he's going to uphold his proper place, so the ultimate knowledge is to know your place before God, is to have a fear of the Lord, to understand he's a holy God, and to understand your place. He's given me a place to hold. I'm a vessel for spirit, and I have a place to hold and a place to abide in. And if I don't abide in that, then I'm not doing what I've been created to do, and I'm not upholding my spiritual husband. And so, a husband needs his wife to be in her proper place and understand that keeping that place is not a lack of strength. It is strong to be humble. I don't need to prove myself physically strong, and it's not surprising that these people that are saying these things, they don't even know what a woman is. They would call the strongest women actually men pretending to be women. They don't even know what a woman is, let alone what strength is, let alone what intelligence is. With wisdom get understanding. What is the purpose of all of this except fellowship with God? So as a woman, as a wife, as a follower of Christ, my job is to honor my husband. If I'm not honoring my physical husband, I'm not honoring my spiritual husband. I'm not honoring the Lord. So a husband needs to have a wife who accepts her position that she's been given, that it is complementary, and not try to usurp and overtake her husband and try to lead her husband. I don't have to prove my strength as the world sees it. And I'm not ashamed of the role that the Lord's given me. We shouldn't be. It's to be given a more to be a weaker vessel requires greater strength from the Lord because we're weaker. And that's why he's given us men to cover us. It's a place of honor. It's not a place of weakness in the sense. It's a stronger place because we're more reliant on the Lord, and we know that. So I'm grateful for the place that the Lord has given me. I'm not ashamed of the place that the Lord has given me. And I want to be someone that cares for my husband and my children, physically and spiritually. There are women that I work with on a regular basis. That's my priority. It's not how the world's seeing me as being some kind of accomplished, strong in the worldly sense of, having respect from the world. They don't respect the position. They don't want to produce fruit. They don't want babies. They want to kill the babies. That's their strength. Their strength is putting themselves first. Whereas in the scripture, when it talks about women are saved through childbearing, that it just reminds me, because as a woman, you're designed to surrender your body for your children so that a child might be born. It's a demonstration of what we do when we receive the gospel. Now, someone else is more important than you. And everything that you do from this point on, you're going to think of that person first. Christ becomes a center point of everything in your life. When you become a mother, you're never not a mother. Even if you lose that child, you're forever a mother, because you've had this experience of now, as soon as you find out you're a mother, if you have that, the natural response, everything you think of now, you think of in terms of this baby. This baby comes first, and everything that you're going to do from this point on, you're thinking of how it's going to impact this child and what's going to be in the best interest of this child. And I think that's how we women have a wonderful preparation for the gospel through childbearing, and so I am very grateful for that. And so I just pray that the Lord helps us to stay in our right position, because we see the world is very confused, and that's because women in the church have become very confused, and they're trying to be pastors, and they're trying to take on, authority, and so I'm grateful to be able to speak, to be asked to speak. That's, but I'm grateful that you men lead, and that I get to be a supportive role in the background that is equal in value, but different in position.
Mia, I just wanted to add something quickly to what Mia said. When you were talking about how it says women will be saved if they continue in righteousness and will be saved through childbearing. You said something very, very interesting that really made me think. You said that a woman has to sacrifice her body to have a child. Now, the image to me points straight back to Jesus, sacrificing his body, his comfort for the love of us. So in that, the emulation, it's a type and shadow. Mia, if I could, real quickly, because I've had this question now twice, one by my own sister. Now, this is the question. As a woman that loves the Lord and is married, my sister is with her partner, and I feel that her partner probably does not like Trump. But my sister is conflicted because she doesn't want to vote for the left. She does want, she doesn't believe in abortion. And she's like, how does she navigate the waters of being able to vote for who she wants at the same time honoring the husband, because if she were to tell him who she voted for, it might cause conflict. And if she lies, well, God doesn't like liars. So how would you give advice to a woman like that is having conflicts of who to choose to vote for at the same time, doesn't want to conflict with their husband?
That's a good question.
Sorry to put you on the hot seat.
Crazy question.
Well, first and foremost, anything not done in faith is sin. So, I mean, if you're not honoring the Lord first, you're not honoring your husband. And what does honoring mean? Does it mean obeying everything that the person prefers? Or does it mean respecting him? You know what I mean? But you don't necessarily have to agree with everything. Right? So it doesn't mean that we are just blind, slaves or something to our husbands. No, God gives us wisdom, and he holds us accountable to the wisdom that he gives us. So I think that she has to obviously be honest with her husband, but she also has to be honest that she has to keep a clear conscience before the Lord. And she has to rely on the grace of God to give her husband grace to have compassion.
Yeah.
That's
Great answer. Thank you so much. David, you had a question as well? Or
I wanted to follow up. Mia, it's important. I think a lot of on the intelligent part is one of the commands that God gives his people is to study to show yourself an approved workman. How important is it for within the household of a woman's household of married that you know the word of God, you study it, and the discernment that comes out of that? How does that support your husband? How does that bring the whole household together and protect it, and is a strength for the house and for yourself?
Well, I mean, we have a mutual obligation to each other, right? So, I have time. I have more time actually than my husband does, because of the work he does versus the work that I do, to get into the Word of God. And I have an obligation to my husband to know where I'm supposed to go and where I'm not supposed to go, because he's a leader, I mean, and my job is to make that easier. I'm a helpmeet, right? So my job is not to make his life more difficult. My job is to support him in his role, and so if I just walk ignorantly, I'm actually making his job more difficult. So I should be displaying the things that are proper and fitting for a wife, for a mother, for a follower of Jesus, because I'm supposed to be an example to him. Even in my quietness should be an example to him. Now, I'm very blessed that I have a believer as a husband. My husband is born again. He became born again after me, and we serve the Lord together. But we rely on each other to keep ourselves accountable. So if I don't know the Word of God, how do I hold him accountable, right? And how do I assist him in the things that he's required to do? And how do I serve the Lord unless I do it myself? Because he's not going to stand before the Lord in my stead. Everyone stands alone before the Lord, at the end of all of this. So each of us is accountable. And we have to love each other, and love does no wrong, so I have to keep myself, to the best of my ability, and then let my husband wash me with the water of the Word. And it's easier to see issues in other people sometimes than ourselves. And in a marriage, we have this added protection and blessing that we have this person that we have to work with and struggle with and walk out, the scripture with. And it's very, very beneficial because they see you all the time. There are things that you can hide from other people that you don't see very often. They don't see you in every circumstance, so there is a special, blessing to that struggle. It's just a different one from the person who's got the grace to remain single. There's a special blessing in that, but my blessing is that I am married and I have a husband who watches over me, and I know he's watching me. And it helps to spur me forward, and, and his love and his love of the Lord, it also propels me forward. So it all works together for good as the Lord does.
Amen. You know how much I
Amen.
love you. Like you're like my daughter, Mia. So I hope women will benefit from your wisdom and your intelligence and your strength. I know you have all three.
Well,
Amazing.
Thanks for coming
Amazing.
on.
with the
Yes.
Lord, yeah.
Thank
You-
you so much for coming on, Mia. Thank you for taking a last minute additional question that,
That's okay. That's okay. The Lord provides, thankfully.
amen.
I'm
Amen.
just in awe watching. It just reminds me of my mom so much. So she was very wise woman.
Well, Jesus is our wisdom. So
Amen.
have a great rest of your meeting together.
All right.
See you
Take care.
soon.
See you soon. David, our next topic we're going to talk about, this has come out, a new jobs report just in time for the election. Can you go over that a little bit, David, and some of the insights you might provide?
Yeah, we were looking at 160,000 jobs or so, and it came out to be 12,000 jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, this is real bad, because it's right before the election. So, and the whole thing is, what's interesting is that the August job report, which was really good, and September, which was real good, have both been downward revised. It's now over 1 million downward revised for this year.
Yeah.
They keep revising it downward. So the first number you get, which everybody wants to hear and rah, has all been bad, because and what we found is that of these job reports, they've created roughly a million jobs. The vast majority of them have come through government jobs, which the Democrats think is great because it produces wealth and everything, but actually it produces the need for higher taxation. Of course, we do have to have police and firemen and things like this, but it's still, you still have to pay tax dollars for those. But it doesn't create the wealth that comes through individuals creating a job for other people, and that wealth gets dispersed and rebuilt and creates a consumer, etc. So it's really bad. This is a really bad jobs report. But the bad part is we've lost 42,000 manufacturing jobs. 42,000 manufacturing. Now, Trump said he wants to bring manufacturing back. And so that's an interesting thing, that's what Kamala and Bidenomics have done. They're losing manufacturing jobs. They're going to Mexico. They're going to Vietnam. They're going to Indonesia. They're going to all these other places, but they're not coming to America. But what we have seen is that 1 million jobs have been taken by foreign workers. Now, as a victim of that there, Jay, personally,
I do.
you got to train the Indian guy to replace you.
True.
So this is what's happening. And so some of our jobs have come in the technology area going to foreign countries. But what is interesting is that Google now reported that 25% of their code is being written by AI. And so the technology industry is facing great numbers of layoffs, and there's going to be more and more as AI grows and grows. And so it's going to be a strain. So we need to do something. And I do not see Kamala's policies and Bidenomics, the continuation of these, being beneficial to America. It'll do just the opposite. But hopefully Mr. Trump gets in and that he can live up to his promises. We will pray for him. We'll help he does. And And so we'll see if this coalition he built can prevent the stealing of this election. Or,
If I may, real quick, I want to kind of drag you into this conversation as well. Given that Kamala Harris has been on record saying that she would be the continuation of the Biden economic policy, my question to you, Ken, is, first of all, will people on the left, will they realize with these job numbers how horrible the economy, what state the economy is in? And will it shift any momentum from them voting for what it is, what I believe is financial suicide?
Yes, I believe that the same thing. I agree with you, but I think that I think we're pretty set as far as the big numbers, like 50% voting for Trump, 50 for, we're pretty even. But I don't think there's that much that will sway either side. I think we're just so divided. And Kamala can't ever sit down and have an actual conversation with anyone. You have to. I mean, it's amazing to see the disconnect between when these people talk. I mean, I'm listening to both sides. I follow Hillary on Twitter, and I follow AOC. I follow what people can't stand. I listen to what they say. And, Kamala doesn't have the ability to empathize or sympathize or to relate. She doesn't have any of that. She's someone who is controlled by evil and destruction within her heart and has sold her soul to Satan. I mean, basically in order to get to the position she's at. All right. So it's nuts to see that. If you see that and people can't see it, they are spiritually, deprived. They, as Romans 1, we're living in a Romans 1 world. And she doesn't have the capabilities to sit down and have a conversation without giving herself away, which she does every time she opens her mouth. So it's amazing to see the people that are swayed to that side, and just to be on the outside, because I know that you, I, and David are Jesus people, right? And then we want Trump, obviously, better than Kamala, and it'll be a kind of a as Jacob says, as a kind of a 4-year, it'll be battling back and forth, but it'll be a 4-year, what's it called? Like a reprise, right? So it'll be just kind of like, reprise. Yeah. So, and I'm hoping, I'm hoping, I truly believe when we start talking about the election and stuff that we are, we're seeing just massive amounts of cheating. Number one, we're going to talk about that, and then massive amounts of votes coming in for that side. So yeah, it's crazy. It's nuts.
David, let me ask you a real quick question to kind of go back to this. A lot of Christians, let's call them hyper grace Christians, have said that it's the Christian thing to do to vote for Kamala Harris. And we've seen Kamala Harris as well pander that she has a pastor and she goes to so-called Christian churches. Can I ask you, why does it seem that there's a certain segment of Christianity that will ignore the genocide of children, but will grasp at the straws of, well, Trump's a liar?
Well, first off, the people that are voting for a Kamala and everything, they tend to have fringe issues. They have the LGBTQ issues at the forefront. They believe in not discriminating against people. And they also have some sort of perverted logic that a woman should have control of her body. And this as concerning reproductive rights, that she has the right to terminate a separate life that is growing in her. Okay. And so that gives her control. But yet these were not the same ones when they were faced with forced vaccinations or you lose your job and everything, and did not bother saying anything about it, that they want control over their body. they went right along with the program. So they seem to be chasing evil, or it seems that they see good as evil and evil as good.
Yeah.
And so they're perverted within their logic, which the Bible talks about happening in the final days. So it's sorry that they have these minority issues. And look, as someone, I believe that every American should have every right, that they should be given every right to chase and pursue happiness, and they should not be discriminated against in any way. But there shouldn't be two sets of laws. There shouldn't, you should be, if you want to burn an American flag, you should have that right. Even my father, a hardcore military man, said they have a right to do it. But if you burn a gay flag, the rainbow flag, it could be seen as a hate crime. So, so we need to have one standard of laws for Americans.
Yeah.
And we know our Constitution from going back to the earliest days. Frederick Douglass said it was an anti-slave document. But we have people that have perverted that for 100 years, and brought us to a civil war where 600,000 Americans fought for the freedom of the black man and died. And others died on the other sides trying to protect a way of life. And that was dying. That was already dying. And so why they want to pursue this up and down type thing? They want equal rights. Women want equal rights. Well, here's an equal right for you. If World War III comes, which looks like it's coming under Kamala and Biden, well, they'll need people to be drafted, and women will get their way. They'll get equal rights to be drafted. And now you won't have control over your body. You will have to put it in harm's way.
Yeah.
Now, men, we don't want that. We don't want our sisters, our daughters, and our wives going to war. We want that to be for men, that we try to protect our women. But, like as an 18-year-old, I had to sign a draft notice that I would accept going to war. And if I didn't, I couldn't vote.
Yep.
If you don't sign up at 18, you're not allowed to vote. So that's a big thing. So women they're seeing two sides of they have what's called a dialectic. No, hold it. What is it? Cognitive dissonance.
Yes, cognitive dissonance. Yes.
Yeah, and so you can see their minds are confused on this,
Okay.
on many of these issues of today.
It says in Proverbs 11, a false weight is an abomination to the Lord. And unfortunately, I think with a lot of today's society, it's a false weight. It's a false scale. Moving on to our next topic, just in time with the last few days, 4 days until we get to the election. Well, who decided to come back into the news but our good friend, Joe Biden?
Okay.
I mean, he has been dubbed Creepy Joe. Ken, help me with this. Why does he put babies' feet in his mouth? Why does he bite the thigh of children? I mean, David said politicians are supposed to kiss babies.
Yes, and that's like, Joe got so excited when he saw a baby in the chicken costume. I don't know, he bit its leg. But and then why does Joe always bite, molest, or sniff children and babies? It's not normal behavior. I do not know. And he has been the resident of the White House for 4 years. It's beyond. It was just I just sent you that video because it's just funny. It's just like, and people just deny it. They just okay, we'll walk on and everything's fine. And it's not, because there's multiple. There's too much to send. Like you said, there was the one there where he sucked the baby's toe. He sucked the whole foot. He put his whole foot in his mouth. And it's like, there's like 3 that he kind of did that to in the mother's walking by with the child. You know, if I was the mom, I'd pull it away. You know, we've seen that before. The mom's kind of like just, you know, they're like wincing a little bit. And that's a normal person. You know, if you let that go, it's just not normal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought that was just amazing that he keeps going.
Maybe he thought it was lunchtime there, Ken.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's young girls that have been handled by him and pulled away. You can see him pulled away when he's putting hands in inappropriate places.
Yep.
He's kissing them, or 2 dogs are snipping their hair. And it's ridiculous. I'll be glad to see him gone into the dustbin of history.
You know, that kind of opens up for my question to you, David, or Ken, whoever wants to take it. Is Biden preparing, because the office of the presidency has suffered under Biden. I would say no time in the U.S. history has the dignity of the office been destroyed more by Joseph Biden. He has been an absolute clown. His mental focus has been horrible. Looking at him at the debate, they got rid of him. And then on top of that, the idea of him touching children and women inappropriately. Is this a preparation for Kamala, who would be twice the son of the devil than Biden, as far as I'm concerned, as far as destroying whatever dignity that office has left?
Ken, you want to go first?
I'll go first. I'll just say this. God decides who will be president, right? I mean, it's you know, Daniel 2:21 always comes to mind. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. That is the verse that ignites in my mind every time I see the argument of you know, I don't even see the left right. I see God making the choice. And if it's our time to be judged even more, Kamala in. If it's our time for a little respite, Trump's in. And in that respite, you're going to see, you know, riots, and you're going to see crazy. There's 75 days between the election and the inauguration. That's 75 days of craziness that could happen, you know, if Trump gets in, which I think I'm tending to be 60, 70% for Trump in and 30, because I'm just seeing just massive numbers of people coming out for Trump. And that 10% that 10 points that they're saying they're you know, as the max for them to be able to cheat, they're so beyond that. It's like 216, you know, it's like 2016. So anyway, that's yeah. And remember, Democrats have an army of illegal aliens too. So it's funny that the violence that could come with the Trump victory is that's kind of like you know, you're seeing a lot of stuff that could happen, and that could be one of the main things that happen. So,
yeah, well, you're absolutely right, Ken, and Jay, that the office of the presidency under Biden is basically made us a mockery of the world. Kamala will fall right into that, but we know that. I mean, she has not displayed any ability to speak with great understanding on various issues that are political in nature, or on foreign relations, or any of this stuff, because she just gets rambling into what is called a word salad. Even David Axelrod last week, a Obama man from the beginning, said she spews out word salads. I would hate to see her sit down across from a Putin or a Xi. That these guys want her in there because they've already done a lot of things that they want to do. China is cheating on the the United States, Canada, Mexico act by sending parts to manufacture cars in Mexico to bring them to America. They know how to get around, and Biden says nothing. Good thing Trump put the right to fix that act, which he should do afterwards, try to change it to not let that happen. So there's a lot of things I don't think she's shown any ability to handle complicated problems or handle foreign relations. And let's admit, under Obama, Biden, and now Kamala, Russia's done what it's wanted to do. It's invaded on those three, not under Trump's. So Trump wants to have peace. I pray he does bring peace to the world. But and I also pray that the Dems would be confused and would turn on one another, which seems to be working.
Yes, yes.
And so that's been my prayer for these guys. I mean, the third part of my prayer is that I pray that the Democratic Party goes down into the dustbin of history.
Amen. Amen.
That would be
It's an evil party.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful thing if that happened. The slave owning.
And can I say, I have two predictions for the post election, and one of them is a false flag event. We have to just going down to the attacks, mass shooting or domestic terrorist attack or something like that, and they'll blame the GOP, and the Democrats are so desperate, I believe they would rather incite a civil war than allow Trump back in the White House. So what do they get from this? They get a lockdown the country, they declare martial law, blah blah blah. And then the second one, I think that this is most likely to happen. Trump wins despite the biggest voter fraud in operation in Waltz history. Then the real battle begins, right? And then that's the Dems are insane with TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. They will not accept the Trump victory, and I expect nationwide riots, anarchy, looting, burning, attacks on American institutions, blah blah blah. Same thing we saw with the George Floyd. So that's what I think, and then I don't know where they go from there. I don't know. So that's my two predictions. I really think that the second one, and I'm listening to who was on with John Haller yesterday. I was listening to him, a former military guy, a really good speaker, and forget his name, but he was talking about the same type of thing. He was talking about he thinks that Trump wins, and despite the voter fraud, it's just too much of a momentum. And that there's just massive riots and stuff, And then you have to worry about 3, 4, 5 different Democratic, cities going, bankrupt, basically. So yeah. So that's another argument.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're wrong. I prefer a peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah. Me too.
A peaceful transfer of power. But it would not be unheard of if Trump is elected for something like an invasion of Taiwan to get it, because he knows Biden is not capable of doing anything unless they all want a third world war. But if riots like this happen, it wouldn't, and they need to call out the military. Well, Kamala and the Biden administration have already signed Executive Order 5040-1, I believe.
Yeah.
And that allows for American soldiers to fire on Americans, which is actually illegal. So they don't even, in the Constitution, they're violating the Constitution with that executive order. But also with a false flag, a wag the dog type move, they could suspend habeas corpus and declare martial law. The election was bad. It was stolen. Whatever lie they want to make. I mean, whatever you can imagine. People. There's some Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War, said if you have an evil ruler, will burn down his own empire and rule over the ashes. Dems are capable of doing, burning the whole thing down. So
And doing a
God
Zelensky.
forbid, may God
Yep.
hold their hand back in their ability to do some of this, and may the God of order and power hold back this.
Amen. Amen. Well, I'm watching Trump and watching. I can't get his assassination attempt out of my mind. He turns his head at the exact second that the bullet flies by his ear. It's the exact second. And so there's something there. There's someone, I would say, yeah, God. There's more than Trump to this issue, and that's why I'm trying to see, if he's just to hold out his just, and every attack they've given him, every attack through whether it's the courts and this and courts and that. I mean, and even Steve Bannon, they're just attacking everybody around him. So it's crazy that, and everybody, it just goes away. It just attack or go away, attack or go away. It's nuts. Never seen anything like it in
And
history of the U.S. I've never seen it.
And the Democrats are worried about, because lawfare has been used on Trump, these people know they have violated many laws. In fact, Andrew Cuomo is now could well be indicted for the lies and the misinformation that he put out on the COVID killing in the nursing home. And so they're all afraid of the laws they know they've broken, of the harm they've brought to America, that he will hold them responsible. And since they know what lawfare is and they're using it on him, they're afraid that it will be turned on them. But when you actually commit crimes, instead of being on trial for made-up crimes, which the 36 felonies that were, such a farce, that they have actual crimes that they could face and years in prison, things like this.
Ted, to your point, you were talking about how you can't get the assassination attempt of Trump out of your mind. One of our topics for this week was a Japanese man was explaining on, I believe it was X, the term kiseki. And kiseki in Japanese means miracle, and it applies to people. And so I guess my question to both you and David, if you'd like to try to answer it, do you think that people outside of the United States, obviously this man in Japan has seen, do they see that something is different as far as Trump? He's bullets are missing his head. Anytime there's an issue where he can use it, from him working at McDonald's to him being on the garbage truck, he seems to be a few steps ahead of his enemies.
Yes.
And to me, that's kind of goes to what you're saying. I think God's hand is on Trump in some way.
Yes. And you can't deny it. There's something more. And John Haller was talking to whoever he was interviewing. I can't remember his name. But he was very intelligent military guy. And he was just saying, there's something supernatural that is happening. And I'm not saying Trump saved. I'm not saying that he's a godly, I'm not saying blah, blah, blah. He had to say that, but he said that you can see that there is something on his life right now that is pulling him, that's just pushing him, that I don't know if it's the way he is, I mean, because he's kind of like, you look at his Twitter. I write his Twitter every day. It's just entertaining, it's just, the mean tweets, right? So.
Well, for me, Jay, that was an interesting tweet that I saw by that Japanese man. But see, people are asking, why in the world would Trump keep doing this with all the crap that they're putting on him? The lawsuits, the assassinations, not just one, not just two. There was actually the third that they stopped before it got off the ground, with that Pakistani man paid by Iran to attack him. Why we haven't attacked Iran for allowing that to happen. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's an oil thing. But anyway, he's taking on everything. All these other politicians go into the office and they all come out millionaires. AOC, you talked about her. She was a waitress struggling to make it in New York. Now has $45 million in the bank. Pelosi, who makes up 200 and something thousand a year, is going to walk out of the office one of these days, or maybe to the grave first, with $600 million.
Yep.
One after another, they go in there and get money. What did he do? He lost $1 billion the last time he was in. His businesses were vilified. His everything, his reputation, everything was brought about, every bad thing he did. But why did he keep doing this? Why? Well, who puts themselves through it? It has to be somebody that has such a love for something, and that something is America. He really loves it. He believes in the dream. He believes what his father taught him, and he does. And when you look, they call him a racist. When you see, he was the one that financed Jesse Jackson's run for Congress. When it was his father who, taught him that there's no color thing. It's just, you just help people. You just help people. He was put on the stage with Muhammad Ali, Jesse Jackson, and Rosa Parks, given a Democratic Merit of Honor for diversity and hiring in Wall Street.
Yep.
And he was their buddy. He was a good guy. Then he put an R behind his name and he became a devil.
He became a devil. Yeah.
Yes.
And and it's like this. You see, they turn on people. And I loved how on The View, just it announced for presidency, oh, you're great, we love you, kisses, hugs, kisses, hugs. Now they've lost their mind, and Whoopi Goldberg is saying, oh, he's going to take interracial marriages and declare them void.
Yep.
He's going to put a ban on abortion. Well, look, he can't even do that now because the Supreme Court said it's a state issue. Yep. I mean, these people have no intelligence to be able to reach beyond what they're being fed through the legacy media. They've lost their minds to be able to critically think. They just repeat the lie, and people will believe it.
Jonathan Devoy, one in our chat room, said, the Bible says, take an axe to the root. I believe if Trump comes in, that's what he's going to do. He's going to drain the swamp. And yes, what I call, they call him Hitler, but most of the swamp should be charged with treason. I mean, it's an apt description. Trump seems like an axe in many ways.
They believe it's not only the axe, but it's draining the swamp around the tree roots.
Yeah.
You ever see a cypress tree? You got to get that water down and then get down in there, man.
Yep.
And it's
what's funny is they did a Trump, is pulling almost 30% of the black male vote.
Yeah.
And that's unheard of. That's for the Republican candidate, unheard of. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, it wasn't heard of back after the Civil War. Republicans. And the Democrats had the enforcement arms to keep the blacks down, which was called the KKK. And then they also came up with more sophisticated policies of using women like Margaret Sanger to promote genocide on the black race. I mean, and people like Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, and many of these other Democratic women were given the Margaret Sanger Award.
Yes.
How could you vote for somebody that wants to destroy the black race? I've been saying this for 40 plus years, ever since I left the Democratic Party.
Yeah, what kind of achievement is to be a top baby killer?
Yeah.
And yet they celebrate it.
They celebrate it. Now they don't talk about it now that that blacks are waking up. I am so thrilled that blacks are waking up to genocide that is being done to their culture. Look, I grew up on black music and lived in black neighborhoods, and I've loved the music, the blues music, and the gospel music that I've gotten, over my life. And so, and many black friends, and it's crazy. I'm glad they're seeing it now. I'm glad. I hope more and more come and understand that the Democrats have long destroyed the black family and wants to destroy the black race. And now they brought in Hispanics and illegals to replace them.
Yeah. And my black male friends, they say that Kamala reminds them of the most psychotic girlfriend they ever had.
I've seen a lot of psychotic girlfriends on X, and that's
oh man, yeah.
that's a high standard.
They're pretty. Yeah. Oh man. So.
So we need to move on to the next story. So this next video that we're talking about, I just want to preface it a little bit. When I was driving around LA, I would always listen to talk radio, and the one show that I always would turn off would be Hugh Hewitt. I get to Hugh Hewitt, and then I would start falling asleep behind the wheel because of his voice. But this next video, I have nothing but praise for Hugh Hewitt.
Yep.
In fact, this is the most, to quote the millennials, gangster thing I have ever seen.
Is it me, or does it seem like this week Donald Trump is laying the groundwork for contesting the election by complaining that cheating was taking place in Pennsylvania by suing Bucks County for alleged irregularities? And this is on top of his continual assertion that if he loses, it's because of cheating.
He's been laying the groundwork for this, just not in the last week, but in the last umpty-ump months. No election can be fair in Donald Trump's mind, unless Donald Trump wins it. And I think we are going to see him both rev up his supporters to contest elections outside of courtrooms and go to every courtroom he can in America where it's relevant to make whatever arguments he can, no matter how far-fetched. We saw
Jonathan, I've got
out last time, but it didn't work out this time.
Finish, Hugh.
It may not work. That may not happen this time. And now I'll let you go, Hugh.
Well, I've just got to say, we're news people, even though we're at the opinion section. It's got to be reported. Bucks County was reversed by the court and instructed to open up extra days because they violated the law and told people to go home. So that lawsuit was brought by the Republican National Committee, and it was successful. The Supreme Court ruled that Glenn Youngkin was successful. We are news people, even though we have opinions, and we have to report the whole story if we bring up part of the story. So yes, he's upset about Bucks County, but he was right, and he won in court. That's the story.
I'll let you keep going, Jonathan.
No, I don't appreciate being lectured about reporting when, Hugh, many times you come here saying lots of things that aren't.
I won't
based
come
in
back,
fact.
Jonathan. I'm
But-
done.
I was blind, but now I see.
I'm done. This is the most unfair election ad I have ever been a part of. You guys are working. That's fine. I'm done.
So, Ruth, you wrote a column this week ending with this line, and actually, I think this is perfect. We're going to put it on the screen. You wrote, "You want to know the stakes of this election? Not only democracy, but decency." Talk more about that, Ruth.
Okay, I'm collecting myself.
Oh, Ruth froze. Ruth is frozen.
I don't know what to do.
So hang in there, everyone. We're going to see if we can try to get Ruth back to this very. We're going to get Ruth back in a moment. This is First Look, Washington Post Live's nonstop shop for news and analysis, and Ruth is back. So I'm going to read that quote back again from your column, Ruth, where you wrote, "You want to know the stakes of this election? Not only democracy, but decency." Okay. We
Oh, she's gone.
Everybody, if you've been watching First Look, you know that these conversations can be interesting, contentious. You just saw Hugh Hewitt leave the conversation, which is lamentable, unfortunate. It
he
is
was
what
right.
it is. I am Jonathan Capehart. I want to thank you all very much for joining us on First Look. For more of these important conversations, please sign up for a Washington Post subscription. You can get a free trial by going to washingtonpost.com/live. Again, washingtonpost.com/live. I'm Jonathan Capehart. Thank you for watching Washington Post Live's First Look.
Can't cut that, Jay. No.
Yes, I got it.
So check this out, Jay. Check this out. So you saw that when what's his name? The head of the Washington Post. What's his name?
Bezos.
Help me out. Bezos. He refused to endorse Kamala, right? So, and that's the first time since 1980 that the Washington Post didn't endorse any presidential candidate. They have lost over 250,000 subscribers. They ditched the compost, and that's a massive amount of people. Yeah, several journalists resigned or vowed not to work with the paper again because of it. So I guess the idea of neutrality doesn't sit well with that side, but it's yeah. So that's actually kudos to Hugh Hewitt. I know he was boring to you, but yeah, dude, I knew you'd like that clip. I knew you would.
When I see a reporter with that vacant stare in their eyes because the script is no longer valid, I love it.
Zero.
You hear them. They're listening to the producer, and they're what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. You got they're trying to.
But also, what's interesting is that Bezos had told the paper and those at the hiring at the paper, they have to hire some conservatives now. He's losing money. He's a businessman, a smart businessman.
Yeah.
And he's not going to keep losing money. And so he didn't endorse, wouldn't let it happen. And now he's telling them they're going to have to hire conservatives. So this is why these guys have left. Who cares? Look, it's a readjustment. But if they actually start doing their jobs again, I don't know if they could do it. If they actually start doing the job like Hugh Hewitt said, doing the reporting no matter one's own personal opinion, they might actually become a decent paper again. But I don't hold out much hope for it unless the house is cleaned even further.
Well, to me, David, I mean, you guys can comment on this, but it seems to me that the entire independent media, when you talk about it, whether it be the Citizens Reporter on X to the people on Rumble, that's all built on the fact that mainstream media cannot report outside of what they feel.
Yep. Plus their own bias. I mean, something like 96% of correspondents, people in the news business, give money to the Democratic Party. What does that tell you? How infected that area of our newspapers are. And even on television, the vast majority are liberal and Democrat, even on Fox. So, but there is an alternative side, and the other news is coming out. We thank Elon Musk for allowing free speech. And we have X, and you're actually seeing a lot of citizen journalists doing a great job exposing all sorts of news that is being censored by YouTube and all these other places. It's called Meta now. Okay.
Yeah.
They censor, even though the information is documented. 700 scientists support this. 200, look at this, have signed a letter concerning this medical issue, and yet people, oh no, that's misinformation, because that's what they've been trained to do. It's misinformation, it's not truthful, but they can't give you the facts why that's true. On major issues, from weather to medicine to food, and everything, we're seeing that now people are hearing what's being put in their food because we have freedom of speech, and we're having the food industry going to have to fix itself. You know, who wants garbage in our food? I love how they have 3 things that go in French fried potatoes at McDonald's. In America, we have 19 different ingredients because they've changed the oil. And to get the taste back right, 19 ingredients. Well, you need to get back to 3, you know?
Remember when I reported on that, Jay? I on the last Ken's Corner?
Yep.
That one clip that she was reading off all the the ingredients that we put in, and then the ingredients in the UK, because it's illegal to do, and then the ingredients here, and the ingredients in Europe in general, and the ingredients here, and the ingredients
travel
it's crazy.
Anywhere, you'll find out that the food is very different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I seen on X this scientist, man. He said, "Oh, notice it has animal insects," and I forgot the name, but the guy took the insects that's allowed in that colors your strawberry Yoplait and a number of other different things. They crushed up these little animals, and then he sprinkled them into a thing of water that turned this beautiful red. But he said this is what goes in. And then there's also there's something like 35 states that allow and I have to check this out. I'm going to say it, but I don't know for sure, that 35 states allow human particles in our food. Somehow they're getting in there. I don't know why or how, but it happens. It used to be a joke, in Chicago, your hot dogs could be made from humans because mafia and stuff, but
oh man,
I've seen a lot of the additives in foods specifically are created from cells, human cells. So yeah, there might be something to that. Now, Ken, since you like conspiracy theories like me, let me ask you a question. I think what we're seeing with the Washington Post and most of media, like one of you said, it was almost 96% of all journalists vote one way and support one way. Can we tie that to the fact that I think for the most part, mainstream media, period, is pretty much controlled by the government, by government agencies?
Yes, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing people that they can't put it together. Obviously the alphabet companies are part of it, and they try and save themselves when they get exposed in certain areas, and then they say conspiracy theory. That word was made up, in after the JFK assassination. That was made up by the powers that be, and they kept saying that it's a conspiracy, and they just it's just.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it Operation Mockingbird that deals with government control of the media?
Yeah.
Yes, Operation Mockingbird. Yep.
Paperclip.
And that's
Operation.
Paperclip, Mockingbird.
Ones that the CIA has done. They receive also the influence over Hollywood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not too far from Jack Nicholson's house is the house that the CIA owned up there. I think it's now owned by, they had underground vaults and all sorts of cool things.
Yeah.
I don't know what went on, but it's also, I think Jared Leto owns it now.
I don't know.
Hollywood is an interesting place indeed.
Yes, and you're right there in downtown Central, aren't you?
Just a stone's throw from the Universal Studios.
I'm praying for you every day.
Thank you.
Japan, let it be, Lord, let it be.
I appreciate it. I would love an exodus.
Yes.
Let's move on to our next story.
We know where you could go.
Oh yes. That's Plan B. But let's see if Plan A doesn't fall through, and then we'll go to Plan B. But yes,
let's go to Plan A and B running simultaneously, creating a future.
Hey, I like this idea. I like this idea.
There you go.
I like options. Options are wonderful. Let's go to this. This is troubling, kind of showing the desperation on the other side to take control of what seems to be out of their control at this point. We have this video that we're going to play about voting machines. Let's see, voting machines. Where? There it is.
Everything's okay. Nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Okay.
There still seems to be quite a few bugs with those Dominion voting machines.
Yeah.
Why are we still using them?
Yeah, they're supposed to be. You think they'd have 4 years to sharpen them up or something? Yeah.
Especially since they knew that they can be easily manipulated and look, it did the same thing in Tennessee where I was at, but we were told you press the name of the president and that changes, not that small box up there. So that most likely was that one. But early on, there were you would highlight who you're voting for, and it looked good. And then you would print your ballot to go take it to the recorder. And what happened, you read it, it says Trump is lit up, and then you see it voted for Kamala. And that's what you had to really look for. And then you can just have that ballot destroyed and re-vote. So who's ever out there, make sure before you record your vote that you make sure that the machine records who it's for.
Whoever you want it to vote for.
Oh, that's right.
Probably a good idea. Election integrity obviously is an important thing, and it seems as we've put technology in there, people are using it to undermine democracy. And yet the mainstream media will not talk about this. This should be a scandal across America that they're having these problems. And we're going to talk about other problems, hopefully, such as what Jacob and Marco talked about, what's going on in Pennsylvania and Butler County. Obviously, that's why Hugh Hewitt got up and walked away. Police officers turning people away from the polls. Illegal immigrants being put at the front of the line. This is complete and utter chaos when it comes to securing a fair election. And yet they want to demonize Trump for calling into question the legitimacy of elections like this. Is this projection, do you guys think?
At some point, people are going to be brought up short with reality, and stupidity doesn't work. They're going to think stupidity doesn't work. And I don't know. It's like, what did Margaret Thatcher say? She said the problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of other people's money, right? So it's like you just I think it's just divided, and it's going to stay divided, depending on the spiritual blindness of the left. For matter of just saying it straight up, the left, their spiritual blindness is getting worse and worse and worse. So,
I believe they have a spirit of error on them, Ken.
Yeah.
That they can't. They don't even know what is true. But also on the thing you didn't mention or didn't get time to mention, I appreciate his integrity on walking out. But in Bucks County, 2,600 ballots were turned in by the last moment to the new register there, the commission, the head of the election commission, right at the last minute to register 2,600 people. But they thought something, and it was turned in by the previous commissioner, I believe, allegedly, which turned them in. And these had been signed in June, and they started seeing irregularities. It looked like many were signed by the same person over and over and over again. And so it all seemed strange. So they started investigating within the office. They started seeing this person is dead. This person doesn't live there. This person has never lived there. And then they called the cops in. And the cops were asked to go out and verify that this person living at this address signed this ballot. And they started going out, and they've already, as 2 days ago was the last thing I heard on this, they had already found out half of them were forged. So this is something that people could go to jail for over this. That's definitely, whoever turned them in, she lost a chain of custody. Where did these come from? Who gave them to whoever and brought them in? There has to be a chain of custody. And this is bad, So there's not only that, we're seeing all sorts of things. Did we mention about the lady out in Colorado that had she put out the passwords for the Dominion voting machines, put them on the internet, and yet
Jenna Griswold. She's the Colorado Secretary of State, and she was reporting how their own office would take care of it. So it's like the criminals gonna find out what the criminals are doing. It's like, it's crazy. It's nuts.
She also sent out 30,000 ballots to illegal immigrants so they can vote. And if they get mailed in and are not caught before, they put them into the pile, those 30,000 votes. And who are all these people voting for? Well, not Trump. The person that opened up the door for them and writing them checks for Social Security. So
she tried to get Trump off the ballot. So she's the same one. She's just bam, 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 just
And
crazy.
when she was confronted with this, she had no remorse. She has no conscience.
I was watching. I was watching on Twitter today, and I was just like, wow, just straight up, just gaslighting everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally could do a podcast. We could do a podcast for 4 hours on different areas that have all reports across the United States that have this type of stuff going on.
Trying to cheat. We all remember in the runoff or in the election for the senator, the top two that would run. They said you had Garvey, Mr. Garvey, I believe he's third place, right? For the Dodgers. He had 1.3 million votes, and I think Mr. Schiff had like 900,000. All of a sudden, within 30 seconds, it
went
100,000 went from Mr. Garvey to Mr. Schiff, and where'd those go? How did they get this court? Like that could only have been done electronically. It was done live.
Yeah, and then they did that. The 2020 election with Trump and Biden, that's what they did. They did a lot of shifting with that, and I don't think they can get away with it. As far as I think it's too big to rig kind of right now, and people are looking at it a little bit. People are looking at it tight. So, So I'm thinking that it's going to be. They're going to have. He's gonna probably. I'm back to my guesstimation. He's going to probably win, but they're going to do something in that 75-day period that charge him with insurrection or whatever. They're going to do something. So,
couple of
I know
things
you're not prophesying.
No, he has not said, "Thus saith the Lord." Now, a couple of things that
I haven't
that the chat has said that I just want to bring to your attention. In 2020, a county in Ohio had 150% of the registered voters that voted. So over 150%.
150.
In Portland, several ballot boxes have been burned because no one is guarding them. And let's see, the final one that I wanted to touch on. There's so many drop boxes being set on fire. So there's all over the U.S. It seems that things are being done to sabotage this election. Now, this kind of plays into an idea. What if we have, through unlimited immigration, brought in people who would have a stake in disrupting and causing social disorder and suspicion. What if it's an operation from a foreign national government that's inside doing some of this election burning, collusion?
Yeah, that's why I brought up the 20 million, mostly male, that are here. That's why I brought them up earlier. Yeah. Yep.
See, I don't think you have to suppose to think about that scenario, because I think it's true. You have Chinese, thousands of Chinese military age men. And didn't we find like a chemical lab for viruses out there in California for some of like the most deadliest viruses in the world?
Yes. I reported on that. Remember, Jay? I reported on that. Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So look, I've said this many times. It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, it is. Yep, it is. Yep, absolutely.
They don't have to do one thing because it would be too obvious, but you do 1,000 things. Your police can't track it all down.
Nope.
But we're going to have to deport most of these people. And, there's always this question, how do you deport 15 million people? Well, if it was me, I'd send them their last check and an email that said, this is your last check. Your rent will not be renewed after the next month. And so you have basically, if you need a free ride out of the country, report to this naval base, this Air Force base, and we will be giving you all free rides home. But there will be no more money. There will be no more rent. They're taking Social Security money. They're getting the maximum amount of Social Security, plus they're getting food stamps, plus they're getting all this, when we have poor people that are Americans that are homeless, vets that are homeless, as well as people losing their apartments and everything because of the inflation rate. We brought all these people in, and now all this money that Kamala voted for under the Whip Inflation Now Act, and it's caused incredible pain to the American people. We're paying for our destruction. That's how I'd cut it off, and I'd give them all rides home. I hope that doesn't seem heartless to people, but I'd give them one last check.
Well,
you see the North Carolina thing too. Yeah. Go ahead.
You kind of read my mind. Our next topic is the fact that hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian refugees are claiming American Social Security benefits. In fact, the DHS estimates 537,000 refugees have entered America. And let's just take a perspective of that. The average Social Security claim benefit for an impoverished person is $1,800. So it's 1,800 times 537,000. That works out to about $1 billion. Now,
that's a month.
Yes, a month.
Yeah,
and
a month.
Meanwhile, Lahaina still got a $700 check.
Yeah, $750 check. Yep. That's crazy. That's to think about that.
North Carolina residents get $750.
Oh yeah, $700 check to Maui and then $750 to North Carolina. Yeah, they put $50 on.
So for American citizens, you get something that you can't even use to cover a month's worth of rent.
Yeah.
But to almost $1 billion to Ukrainian refugees living in the United States, not citizens.
Other benefits besides just the SSI. They're getting food stamps. They're getting
food stamps.
Cash benefits. They're getting
free place.
Rent.
Place to rent. Yep.
And that's a month.
That's
a month.
But it's interesting in the last big bills that Biden and Kamala put forth that Trump wanted to overturn, which he's glad it didn't pass, there was not one dime for Social Security. This administration is trying to bankrupt Social Security. They weren't going to replace any of this money.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Not one dime for Social Security. They keep blaming Trump that he wants to destroy Social Security. Well, he doesn't want to do it. He wants to make sure it's there for us. But these people are actively trying to destroy it.
Yep.
And by the way, do these people,
Well,
do any of them pay into Social Security?
yeah, that was my question. Yeah.
Well, I don't think these guys, I don't think none of those people, because it's all being given to them, and
Yes, because they're not being taxed on any payroll tax.
yeah.
It's not being deducted from a payroll.
Well, if they make more, if they get a second job or a third job, and it's all recorded under the same Social Security number, they might have to pay taxes on it. Okay. But if they have lots of kids and deductions like that, they'll be given even another benefit, and that's called a tax credit for those kids, which can add up to thousands of dollars. This is meant to bankrupt America.
Yes.
Take the poor of the world and import it so that there's no money for the citizens.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Moving on to
That's why. Yeah.
More good news.
Move on.
some more wonderful news in the life of an American and a world citizen. Kamala Harris's VP choice, Tim Waltz, had an alleged secret fling with the daughter of a top Chinese communist official during his teaching stint in China. Can anyone say Eric Swalwell Jr.?
Yeah. The romantic relationship. Yeah. The girl's name, I guess, was Jenna Wang, the daughter of a high-ranking Chinese Communist Party official. And the stint started, I guess, in 1989. The relation was kept a secret due to her father's position, and he would have disapproved of her fraternizing with the Westerner. Wang believed she was going to marry Waltz and moved to the U.S., but then became clear that Waltz was not going to commit. She felt used, contemplated suicide, and due to the social disgrace, their relationship ended without further contact after Waltz refused to continue under those circumstances. So, but that's how it ended. And then they had a brief and then he starts talking about how, because he was in China, and he talks about how he noted misleading, claiming that he was at the Tiananmen Square protest in 1989. Remember, and then they called him out on it. And he says, I guess I wasn't there. I was in Hong Kong or something like that. Yeah. So
they've called him out on a lot of things. The stolen,
a lot of different things.
But
yeah.
I don't. Weren't you in the service, Ken?
What's that?
Were you in the service?
No. I
Okay.
trained. Yeah, I trained some of the people in the service, but I never was. I was a contractor. I contracted.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, they have a sharpshooter. We saw how skillfully he handed his shotgun out there.
Yeah.
But you saw in some pictures he had a sharpshooter's badge with bar, which means that he had the highest rating, which is like you have to hit 96 out of 100 targets.
Yeah.
I think they're like 4-inch targets.
Yeah.
And so it's rare. But if you look at his, what is that discharge paper? 220, the 2220? 1120?
Dang it, I can't think of it.
Yep. It's a discharge paper. It tells you. I had to get it when I made a plaque of all my dad's medals.
It's a DD-214.
DD-214.
So when you're discharged for that, it tells you what medals you're entitled to and what you're allowed to wear. But when it got down to being a sharpshooter or they have 3 standards, like you're good, you're really good, or you're an expert. But he qualified on none of them. And he wore the sharpshooters with the highest bar. So this guy has no morals. To steal that type of honor, to steal, even he was making coins with his master sergeant commander. right, passing those out. Hey, I was this commanding master sergeant when he wasn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I just don't. Yeah. I've never ever seen a vice president with that much, unintegrity.
Well, I could tell you about the vice president of the United States who was a military general down here in Nashville that led his men into cannons, and the Union people had 6-round rifles, and they just had, their Brown Betsies and things like that called Hell's Half Acre. I don't think that guy was too sharp.
Nope. It's just a cycle of, and we're on the downward cycle. If you get in, whew. Yep.
Our next story, Kamala is still bussing in crowds, as many have reported. The GPS mobile devices, 31,834 at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C. For Kamala Harris rally. 91% of them have attended 3 more Harris rallies. Is she like the Grateful Dead? Do you go from concert to concert for Kamala? 11,000 were from Atlanta, Georgia, and the others were 6,500 from California. Hundreds of Democrats were from Mexico. That's strange. Did Mexico become part of the Union somehow?
Recently, probably.
Well, there's this. People have been tracking, guys with big data have been tracking all the hits, the GPS hits where, or the blips of where your cell phone is and tower, and they can put you there and they can tell where you're from, who you are. Okay. And so what's happened is they've tracked this, and they're finding that all these people are like 11,000 coming from Atlanta to go to Washington, D.C. That is a long bus ride. Let me tell you, that's at least 8 hours, if not more. And so there's a group out there called Hire a Crowd. And so you got a couple 100,000, you got $1 million, they'll get you all the people you need to show up at these rallies. Now, when you compare that to like Trump at Coachella, there were something like 60,000 blips on the phone, okay, and 98% of them were from people in and around that area. The same thing in Butler, some out in Ohio and things like that, but they were all generally local, okay? And we don't have this crowd being bussed in. And of course, if you watch X, you can see many buses that Kamala has there. People being bussed in. Hire a crowd.
By the way, real quick, I just want to give you guys some numbers. The estimate average salary of Crowds on Demand employee is around $99,000 a year, almost 6 figures. The hourly rate for Crowds on Demand is $48 per hour.
Wow.
Sounds like I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, dude, that's cool. Well, $50 an hour to show up. Wow.
So 8 hours on a bus.
Yeah.
Already you've made enough money for that day.
And she just continues to cook herself, so let her speak. That's all I got to say. Just let her speak.
Well, you would have
she's finally released. To go get. Well, how many people started walking out when they found out Beyonce wasn't going to sing? They're like, it was a mass exit. So
my hometown.
People started saying Trump.
Yeah, they started yelling Trump. Yeah, her handlers finally get her going with the media and interviews, and she's just So I say let her speak, let her bury herself.
Well,
let her fumble the ball.
How much money does she have in her coffers that she can pay for these crowds? Because that's a significant
$1 billion.
Wow.
What? $1 billion?
$1 billion was raised for this, and on top of that, you have Bloomberg recent gave her 50 million more, as did Gates. There seems to be a lot of people that have connections to Diddy and
Yes.
Vito Island that are sucking up. I hope
Yes.
they become exposed.
All right. I'm just gonna do some rough math here. For the event in Washington, the one-day event for the 31,000 mobile devices, $12 million. That's it. $12 million, and you got a crowd. So with $1 billion, she has a lot of different campaign stops that she can pay for.
Wow.
Yep. This guy's been tracking this for quite some time. He's got quite a few of this. And those people from Mexico, they were saying these could be part of the people that are helping with helping with immigrants. They're bringing migrants in.
Bring it over. Yeah.
With NGOs and things like this.
You mean the coyote constituents?
Well,
yes.
There we let's go ahead and move on to another story. We are about to go actually to backstage here very shortly. We hope you've enjoyed the broadcast. We know that Jacob and Marco aren't here, but we've done our best. And Ken, thank you so much for coming. We're going to do one more story, and then we're going to go to backstage, and we're going to try to answer some of the questions. If you've asked a question specifically for Jacob, we're going to leave it until he's back. So please don't worry if you've asked a question that you wanted Jacob to answer. We'll make sure that he gets that answer to you.
The A team will be back next week. The B team is
yes. The B team will be back behind the curtain, rather in front of the curtain. I want to get to this video. This is the first time it's ever happened that this story has come up in mainstream media, and I just want to shed some light on it. I don't know what will happen tomorrow with YouTube, so we might have to get rid of this from YouTube and then re-edit it, and you'll only find it on Rumble, but we're going to try to do it live and see where it goes. Here we go.